this program has an array and you'll duplicate all the zeros. However, there's a twist. Only duplicate the zeros until it equals to the length of the original array. Then it has to stop. So, for example, this would be 1, 0, 0, 2, 3, 0, 0, 4. So then I have to end. So there's no space for these two because the 0 duplicates, and this has to be the same length. So the 0 duplicates. So that means you have to get rid of some. So that's how the program works. And a function dupe zeros will take in the input of that array, and there'll be an I, a dupe length, a K, and a J. Okay, there'll be an I, a dupe length, and a J. So dupe length will say how long it is when you dupe all the zeros, and J will be the length, and I will be they're going to be useful later. So it'll for loop through the array, which is this. If I is equal to 0, that's when you know you need duplicate. So if dupe length is smaller than length array minus 1, there's no need to duplicate the zeros that you're already not going to go past, that you're not going to include in the duplicate 0 array. Also, it's going to use the same array when it duplicates a 0. It will change the array. It won't make a new one. So it'll increment. For example, so it'll see the first 0. It'll increment it by 2 instead of 1 because 0 duplicates. And if it's smaller than length array if it's bigger than length array minus 1, that means it's already gonna, if it duplicates it, then it's gonna be bigger than the length array, and that's not what we're gonna do. So it's not gonna let that happen. And if it is bigger, then dupe length will increment only by 1 because it's just a normal number if it's not going to duplicate the 0, and array J will equal to -1. That shows that 0 shouldn't get duplicated. So if it sees a -1, then it knows it shouldn't get duplicated. Else, dupe length will increment by 1. So that would make it so and else that's just a normal number. It means it's not 0, so just increment it by 1. And then J will increment each and every time. So it knows so it could use array J. Then J would be at the end of the array, and I would be equal to the length array minus dupe length minus length array minus 1. Let me simplify that. So it would be dupe length minus length array. So dupe length is with all the zeros duplicated except for the ones that are already bigger than the array, length of the array, minus the length of the array. So in this case, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 because this is already bigger than length array. So this only counts as 1, not 2. So 10 minus 8 is 2. Then 10 minus 8 minus 1 is 1. So then that so length array is just 10. Minus 2 minus 1 would be 7, which 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It would be 5, and then so it would have 4. So and then I would be at 4, and J would be at the end. So J would be equal to length array minus 1, and I would be at 4, because that's I is where all the ones that have to get excluded because zeros are getting duplicated. That's where I is, and then J, and then so that's where I is. It's the one that the length would be with all the so I is the number that is where the array would end because with all the zeros duplicated, and J is just at the end of the array. And while I is bigger equal to 0, if array I is equal to -1, and array J is equal to 0, and if array I is equal to -1, that means that 0 is past the array length, and that means that it doesn't want to duplicate it. And then I would decrement J because and array J would be equal to 0 because that's just the 0 is worth 1 0. It's not worth 2, so it's only just 0, and J will decrement. And it won't go in here because it's an elif, so it won't go in here unless it didn't go in here, because it won't go in there. If it's a -1, it won't go in here. If it isn't a -1 and it's equal to 0, that means that array J would be equal to array I, and then it will decrement J and make that one equal to 0. So it's going backwards through the array, and this duplicates the array. And it makes one array, it makes 1 0, and then decrements it, makes another 0, and then it will decrement again. And if it doesn't go in there, that means it's just a normal number, and it will just make array J equal to array I, and then decrement J. So this is going backwards through the array. And if it finds a 0, so J is over here, and I is over here. if I is originally a 4, so this would be a 4. And it goes through here, and it is a 0. So this would become a 0, decrement j, and this would become a 0, and go on and so forth. And then I would decrement at the end, always. And once it's done with that, we'll return the array. And then call the function and print it. In this case, it would be 1, 0, 0, 2, 3, 0, 0, 4.